Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I know that your time is very scarce and valuable, so I'm not going to waste it. We're going to jump into the meat and potatoes very quickly. My name is Dr. Nkem Izamama, and for those of you who don't know me, I am an emergency medicine physician, and I founded Phoenix Capital Investment, and it's truly because of the investors we have on the call this evening on the webinar. So I'm so grateful for every single one of you. Most of you on this call are busy professionals, healthcare professionals, and high earners. And so you already understand the problem, right? And so as I go into it, right, the idea is how can we think of a solution? You work hard, you earn well, and a large share of everything that you do, is given to taxes. And Uncle Sam takes a chunk of it. So tonight, right, my goal, my heart is to walk you through a 492 unit apartment. Yes, you heard that right. In the Atlanta MSA. And we are acquiring it for $77.5 million. And we are already under contract to purchase it. So I'm very, very excited. So let us get into it. But before I start, I just want to say, right, this is a safe space. I want to ask questions. If there's something that you're not clear on, or I didn't explain it well, or you need a second go around, please toss the questions in the chat. I would definitely love to explain it. So let's get into it. So the property is Montrose Berkeley Lake. It is our newest pride and joy, and I am thoroughly excited to bring this opportunity to you this evening. And so before I show you the deal, I want to tell you who's standing behind it, right? Because in private real estate, you're not just building a building. You're not just buying a building, right? You're trusting the team and the operator behind it. So today, we as Phoenix Capital manage more than 153 million in assets, and that's across more than 770 units in the Sun Belt. We acquired in the last year about 107 million, and we have returned more than $1 million to our passive investors. And I built this firm the same way most of you would want to invest in it, right? I started as a limited partner, writing checks into kind of other people's deals while I was still working clinical shifts, full clinical shifts, full time in the ER. And I learned the model from the passenger seat before I ever took the wheel. And so everything that we underwrite, everything that I present to you, it is very conservative, right? We manage for long-term hold. That's our plan. So we're not a firm that moves fast for the sake of just moving fast, but we move with conviction and we bring our investors alongside with us. And this is why I'm going into detail about this next investment opportunity. This is our track record, and it's 6 properties that we have invested and acquired over the last 4 years. You have Park at Arlington, you have the Rise, you have Grove Park View, and which is Grove Park View is actually 20 minutes away from Montrose Berkeley Lake. So I'm even excited more that we're buying kind of in the same area and kind of bringing our team into one area. And again, right, I point to Grove Park View on purpose, and I'll come back to that because it sits in the same county as Montrose Berkeley Lake, which is the deal that we're talking about tonight. And the rents that there, right, they're already telling us where the market is going. So this is very, very, very exciting. This is not our first rodeo. We know how to buy these assets. We know how to improve them and then hand them, hand our investors the returns. And a lot of our investors are excited because they just got their distributions. So this is the deal on one screen, 492 units in the Atlanta MSA. It was built in 1988. And we're purchasing it for about 77.5 million. So that looks like about 157,000 per unit. Our going in cap rate is about 5.6%, and more conservative, we're exiting at a cap rate of 5.75. We plan to hold it for 5 years. The total equity that we're going to raise is just under about 33 million. So I want you to hold on to those two numbers, right? The price per unit and the going in cap rate, because in a few slides, I really want to show you why both of them are rather conservative in our numbers and our approach and in how we're thinking. So these are the returns. If it looks funny on the screen, my apologies. It translates different after we create the slides. But these are the returns that we're targeting. And I want to be precise with my language because, again, right, I'm a healthcare professional. I'm a physician and not a salesperson. So these are truly targeted numbers, and they're not guaranteed. Nothing in real estate is guaranteed. And anyone who tells you otherwise, you should worry and you should ask more questions, or you should run, whichever one you want. But on this deal, we're underwriting a multiple that is about approaching kind of 2 times your investment. So not there, but close. And an average yearly return of about 16 to 18% once you include the sale. And on top of that, right, roughly about 49% of what you invest is going to come back to you in year one as paper loss tax. And we're going to spend a lot of time, we're going to spend some time talking about that. And again, I want to spend time talking about that because most of you on this call, or you're listening, or you're streaming live, are W-2 earners, and it's the single most valuable, important part of the deal. 3 reasons that this one cleared our bar. 179 units of the renovation runway is what we're planning. It's what we're planning to do. And also another thing that's important is that there's a healthy 1.3 times debt coverage day one. And that's very, very important because our lender expects us that our net operating income that we're making on the property, it should be 1.25 times the cost of our debt. And so day one, we are already at 1.31. So that's even better. And so that's very important and something that I'm really proud of. Okay, so I want to show you what you're actually buying. This is important. It's garden style. It's built in 1988. It's spread over 41 acres. And I want to say this, right? Density matters. It's really pretty. I was there. I toured it. It was really big. I think I got to like building 17 and I was exhausted. But if anyone who's on this call or listening would like to tour the property, I want to make sure that I open it up to our investors. And if you're thinking about it, please take me up on the offer. One of our investors actually took me up on the offer and was on site last week and toured the property, loved it, and immediately called me and said he and his wife are interested in investing. And so if you get to see it, great. If you don't get to see it, I still want to be able to break down all these information to you. But again, if take me up on the opportunity, if you want to tour the property, you're local, or you might be visiting, I'd love to show you the property. But these days, right, newer products that are coming to the market get stacked like 4 or 5 stories to kind of squeeze land. But this asset, it breeds, right? There are 32 residential buildings. We have a clubhouse. We have rentable space, 2 parking spaces, 2 big parking lots. And it's about 93.5% occupied today. So it's doing really well. When you walk it, right? And I told you I walked it a few weeks ago. It doesn't feel like 1980. It feels really like a resort. The amenities on site are brand new compared to like maybe assets down the street, right? And nobody builds a 1-acre lake, and the lake is very beautiful. Just walking around it is gorgeous. We have a turf soccer field, and the gym has Rogue equipment. So the gym is very up to date. It's the type of equipment that I use at my gym. So yeah. So if you're interested in touring it, please let me know. I'll let our whole team know and we'll make it happen. So this is the unit mix. It's 3 floor plans. We have a 1-bedroom that's about 735 square feet. And then we have a 2-bedroom that is about 1,000 square feet. And then a larger 2-bedroom that is about 1,125 square feet. And again, if you look at the amenities on the slide, you'll see the Rogue Fitness gym. You'll see a pool, sun deck, soccer field, all of that. Kind of, there are 2 dog parks. If you're a dog lover, know that you have multiple spaces for your dogs. There's also a cool walking trail. I walked a little bit of the walking trail, and we have Google Fiber. And the schools, which I'm going to come back to that and talk about that, they're all A-rated. It's a place that, the important thing is that families want to move here. They want to live here. And when they do, they don't want to leave. And I saw that while I was on site. I saw kids playing in the middle of the afternoon. So it was really nice to see that. Now, I want to lean in because this is where a lot of operators kind of wave their hands. And this is where I want us to do our homework. And so we have the 1-bedroom rent. The 1-bedroom, it rents for about $1,200 today. But if you look at the chart that I'm sharing with you, right, the comparable rents in that area are already getting anywhere from $1,400 to $1,600. And that's for the same bedroom count. And even when we renovate it, right, we're still underwriting it at renovation at $1,400. So we're still like not top of the market. It's the 4th line down. So that's the same story on our 2 bedrooms. We're going to push it to like 1600 post renovation when the top comp is already getting 1700, or the top comparable rent in that area. So again, right, I could be more aggressive, but I'm choosing not to be. Every rent number in our model is a rent someone in the submarket, right? And this, our market is already paying today. So we're not projecting a future, we're just catching up to the present, which also makes it more likely that we're going to achieve the projections that we make, because they're pretty conservative. So three things, three reasons why we're buying Montrose Berkeley Lake, and none of them are because it's cheap, right? The first is the basis. Like, we're paying 77.5 million, but the asset was appraised for 91 million back in 2023. So we're buying it at a discount. And we're still even underwriting a conservative exit in the next 5 years. So we're buying below where the thing was already valued, which is really good. And then second, the premium is not a projection, right? So the rent premiums that we're going to get, the current owner, they renovated 80 units already, and they're collecting anywhere from $150 to $225 in rent. And so we're simply doing the same, and we're going to do it for about 179 units. We're thinking the same scope, the same finishes, the same rent, and proof of concept is already there. So when I was on the property a few weeks ago, I was there with the property management team, asset management, general contractors, roofers, landscapers, pool guys. Everybody was on site so that we could plan, we could scope out what we're doing for the renovations and plan. And so the third is the location. It's very important where this property is located, because in the area that it's located around Peachtree, right, there are more than 370,000 jobs within a 15-mile radius. And so the work, right, is already de-risked, because we know that people live there. People need a place to live, right? And that's why this property is at almost 94% occupied. So I'm going to move through the photos real quickly, but take a look at it. And for, I think everyone who's on the call, you will get a link tomorrow to the deal room. So you'll get access to the deck, you'll get access to the underwriting, you'll get access to the subscription documents if you say you're interested in it. But so take a look at the photos, and it's all in the deck, but I want you to sit with one idea, right? So every amenity that you see on the screen, so the pool, the clubhouse, the lounge, the gym, the grilling stations, right? All of that is already built and it's already paid for. The prior sellers put in a lot of work into that, right? So we're not raising capital to build a pool. It's already there. Our goal is to raise that to renovate the interiors. That immediately, as soon as we do that, it's going to immediately convert to higher rent, right? So we're already we're force appreciating the value of the properties. So your dollars are going to the highest return work, and it's not catching up on like what already needs to be done. And I think that's very important for you to hear. So let us jump into the business plan. I want to spend some time talking about that. Here's exactly how we make money for you, right? Our goal is to renovate the 179 units. And that's about 36% of the property. We're actually looking at about $15,000 per unit to renovate. And that's going to earn about a premium of like an average of about $211 a month for those renovated units. So that's kind of where we're thinking in terms of our big strategy, our big business plan is to go in and renovate those units. But I want you to notice the pace at which we're doing it, right? It's roughly, we're doing about 4 units a month. And then we're going to start anywhere from month 3 to month 6 through the 54th month. And we're not gutting the whole property on day one. We're not like gutting it, praying and hoping, right? We're very strategic about what we're doing, and we're only renovating a small number of units every single month. And how we do it is we renovate as the units turn. So if someone is leaving, maybe someone's getting married, they now bought a home, or they want to move to a different area, they're leaving the city, right? That happens. It's just natural turnover. That's when we pick those units and we renovate them. But we prove the premium and we reinvest, right? Again, it's the way I think about it, and you should as an investor, it's a disciplined, self-funding rhythm. And it's the same rhythm that the current owner has already used, and that's what we're planning on using. So for those of you who want to kind of see the receipts, right, this is our plan. And I told you we went with the whole team, and we went to really scope out the entire plan. and we already have bids for exactly what we're going to do in terms of a capital expenditure. So it's not a kind of lazy allowance, but it's truly line by line. And so you know exactly where the capital is going to. For the interiors, right, we're focusing on the kitchen, new cabinetry, new appliances, the bathroom, we're focusing heavy on flooring. So that means changing it from carpeting to a form of hardwood, and then lighting, hardware, so all of that stuff. And then that's interior. On the exterior, we are budgeting to change to renovate, to fix the retaining walls, landscaping. Just imagine how big the property is, 42 acres. So landscaping is a huge part of our exterior budget. There's a lot of trees that we need to limb. And so that means just like maybe a lot of trees are touching the property, they're growing too big. And so we're going to cut a bunch of those off. We're going to do a lot of pressure washing, and we're going to focus strategically on the roofs. So as they come due, we will repair them, and we'll change them. So this is the kind of number that should give you comfort, right? The prior owner has already put in more than almost $8 million into the asset. And that looks like even in the last 12 months, they put in another 800,000. So there's not, and the reason why I want you to know that is because there's not a lot of what we call deferred maintenance. So it's not that there are things waiting for us to fix, but they are actively fixing, repairing, renovating, improving the quality of the asset, and not leaving it to us. So this is a slide that my nature as a physician loves because it's the kind of downside slide. I underwrite deals kind of the way, I approach medicine. I look at what could go wrong first, especially in the emergency room, because we think life-threatening and we think bad. So today occupancy is around 93.5 to 94%. And I told you day one, right, our debt coverage is at 1.31, and that's really good, 1.31 times what our net operating income is. So like what the cost of debt is, the property is making it already. And so, and as the years go, as we increase the value of the property, as we start doing renovations, as we increase as we meet our business plan, right, that debt service coverage ratio is actually going to go up to 1.49 over average over the whole. So it's a really good thing. And I tell you this because occupancy could fall 6 full points, and that's 6 percentage points from today before like year one cash flow even reaches break even. So that's really important for you to know. And now that's not going to happen, right? Because we're going in there, we're going to manage a property excellently. But it's good to know that before even we start struggling with cash flow, right, we would have to go down to, what's that, 86%, and we're not close to that. So from a rent growth, and this is important, right, on the rent growth, this is another assumption that we make, right? We assume 3% a year. In that submarket, right, since 2020, they have experienced rent growth as high as 23%. But we will never underwrite to that, right? We are very conservative, and we're saying, okay, what has it done the last few years? And we use national data to predict where we're going in the future. And so also importantly is our debt, right? We are using fixed senior debt at around 5.7%. It's full, and that's for the life of the deal. And we're going to get about 24 months in interest only. So that's also a good thing. We are not doing floating rate debt. There will be no surprises when the feds move, right? It doesn't even matter to me because our debt is fixed. So every risk on the right side of the slide, we've thought about it and figured out a mitigation strategy next to it. And I want to tell you that it's not marketing, right? It's really how we think about protecting your capital. I talked to you about net operating income, and it's the engine of your return. And ours is going to grow about 44% over the hold, from about 4.6 million in place today to about 6.7 at exit. And I want to be clear where that growth comes from. Also, the amount sounds large, but the property is very large. It's 492 units. So I want you to keep that in mind when you hear the numbers that we are projecting. But again, I want to be clear where those numbers come from, right? It comes from, a chunk of it comes from our renovation premium, which is our which is the big business plan that we're going in. And a lot of it also comes from, a decent amount comes from our rent growth. So how is rent growing every single year? It doesn't come from like, financially engineering our numbers. It doesn't come from heroic assumptions. It's what we know the market has done, especially, because we have Grove Parkview and in the same county. And this property is on the nicer side of the county. So again, right, that's something that you should kind of put in mind as we think. And our market growth assumption. So we're at 3%, but we're also saying that as rents are growing by 3%, we also think expenses are going to grow by 2%. So again, right, we're really thinking about all the things that could happen on the property. And we're assuming this asset is going to perform in like a fairly ordinary market, so like just like what we're experiencing right now. And we're still we project that it's going to produce these numbers. Now if the market is better at all, right, and Atlanta has done really well, the returns are not capped, and I think that's very important for you to know. Speaking of important, this slide is also very important. And I told you, right, if you sign the soft commit, right, we will send you access to the deal room and you'll be able to get the full underwriting. But this slide is important. And again, if you want to get the full underwriting, whenever our team is going to put up a link, if you're interested in the deal, we'll send you all that information so you have full access and full knowledge. And I don't want to read every line. I will say this, right? If you want me to go through this underwriting in detail, it's very detailed. But if you want to get a better understanding of this investment, again, right, you on the deal room, there's a link to schedule a call with me. Take me up on the offer, and I'll walk you through it. Again, I also want you to know that it exists, because this is how we underwrite. This is how we make projections. This is how we make assumptions. And you need to know that this exists, because it's the difference between buying a building and really buying a business. And you want to be buying a business, right? So the income, the effective gross income, is going to grow by about 29% to about 11 million by the end of our hold period, which is about 5 years. Also, another thing is like and we're going to grow that income by thinking about other ways to bring value to the property and to our tenants. So that's also important to know how we're going to do that, right? And also with our property management team, and they manage all our assets in the Atlanta area, but we are planning to decrease our expense. So our expense ratio is going to improve from about 47% to about 40%. So we want to run the property tighter than the current owner is running it right now. And that's truly with the help of our property management team. And I'll tell you, if you look at the slide, right, you might have to zoom in, but look at bad debt, right? Bad debt, it's going to fall from a historical average of nearly 390,000 to about 50,000 towards the end of our hold. And this is going to be by just collections, right? So we're very good about pursuing. Our asset management team is wonderful about really pursuing our collections. And if there's a tenant who's not paying, we will go through the proper channels in order to evict the property. In order to evict the tenant. And we have done this in prior properties where we inherited a large amount of bad debt and we were able to clear that. And so it's something that we're very capable of doing. So when I say we underwrite line by line, this is exactly what that looks like. And this is the whole thing capitalized. So the total cost of it is about 88 million. 61% of that is from senior debt. And again, it's fixed, it's full term over the entire life of the property. We have a small amount of preferred equity that we also get in this deal. And so we're going to be raising roughly around a little under 33 million. And on this slide, you're also going to see kind of the uses. So what do we use the capital for? Again, I want you to have access to all of that information: acquisition costs, renovation, acquisition fees, operating reserves, all of that is there. And I want to flag two things very plainly. One is the debt and the preferred terms. They're not, those two, right? The debt and the preferred terms, they're not committed yet, right? So they're just indicative. And that means that and I want to tell you that rather than hide it. So we will get final debt quotes towards the end of when we are ready to close. So we'll get final numbers, but these are what our debt brokers have given us, saying this is probably what we will get. And then another thing is that we're carrying almost $1 million in operating reserves. And that's very important, right? We never buy an asset without cushion. You need to make sure that you have for rainy day. Like if something happens, we didn't budget like a large expense, right? We want to make sure that we budget that, because when you don't account for it, right? That's exactly what hurts people when they don't have any sort of breathing room. So I think that's very important. Okay, so I talked to you about kind of our business plan, sources and uses of capital, what we're going and what debt looks like, what the NOI, the net operating income looks like. So I want us now to zoom out to why we're here. And this is the core of everything we do. And we ask one question: where are people moving to? Atlanta has added almost 62,000 residents in the last year, and they're third in the country behind Houston and Dallas. And that looks like roughly about 176 people moving to this metro every single day. And the forecast tells us that there'll be another probably 71,000 residents and new jobs created from now through 2030. So again, we think about where do we want to buy, and we also think about where are people moving to, where are jobs being created. It's known as the best city to start a career a lot. It's also known as the most educated city, which I was like, oh wow. But again, right, when you buy housing, you want to buy it directly in the path of that growth, and that's exactly where this asset sits. So we're thinking about all the reasons why this is a great asset. Going back to location, right? Real estate is very hyper local. So I want to give you specifics about the submarket, right? So where around the area where this property is going to be, about 1 million people are in the submarket, and about 1.5% annual growth. There are about 33,000 businesses in that area, in the Gwinnett submarket and the MSA. So that's really important. A property, it sits at the corridor of like I-85. So it has 4 major employment centers within like 15-mile radius. And so like things that the tenants nearby are Fortune 500, so Amazon, McKesson, Kaiser. So there's a lot of healthcare systems in the area. And again, right, all of these they feed into the exact MSA where people are going to live and they need jobs. And it's also important for you to know how we think, right? The job base has to be diversified. So we never, and I will never buy in a market that lives and dies on one industry, because if that industry sneezes, if anything happens, right, then our tenants are going to lose their jobs. And then if they lose their jobs, I lose my rent, and we don't want that for our investors. So the market is broad, it's deep, but this is how we're thinking about it. I said I'd come back to schools, and this is why schools also matter a lot in real estate, especially to a real estate investor. So if you're looking at properties, you should be looking at like what the school districts are around it, where are kids going to school, because families will move to areas that have wonderful school districts so that they can give their kids the best opportunity, and they will stay there. So again, right, so it's important. Schools are important as to a real estate investor, not just the parent. So when I run kind of what I call the sleep test on a property, one of the first things I ask is, would a family want to raise their kids here? That is very important. And this attendance zone has 3 A-rated schools, so very important: the high school, the middle school, the elementary school. And Duluth is the 6th safest city in Georgia and the number 2 place to live in the county. So it's very important. People love this area. There, it's kind of like old, but it also has a lot of good in the county. And so families, they don't churn out of neighborhoods that look like this. They stay, they renew, they pay their rent on time, and that stability is worth more than like returns. If you go to like a flat, if you go to a property that has like super flashy amenities, right? Good schools are a moat. They're very important, and families cherish that. And so I'm grateful that we have that in this property. And it's not just quiet and safe, it's actually livable. And when I toured it, right, I drove down, went to coffee shops, busy areas, It has a busy street. I can't remember the name of it, but it's very, very livable. It has a lot of shops, dozens of restaurants, live music scene, right? And it's not far from, it's less than 25 miles from Atlanta if you want to head down south. So again, right, this is a place where your tenants will have somewhere to go on a Friday night. They'll have stuff to do, and then they stay throughout the school year because the schools are great. So it's a combination of a great place to live, great place to raise kids, great school district, great job access, right? So that's exactly why occupancy is high and turnover is really low. Okay, so all right, this is the slide that most people came for, and it's the one that honestly I care about the most because I live the problem that it solves. When I was working full time, right, I would look at my W-2 in April, and I'd honestly watch a third of it disappear. And I will say this, the more I learn about real estate investing, right, the wealthy, they don't play by those rules. And it's not because they're cheating it, right, but it's because the tax code really rewards people who provide housing. And so now you can be one of them. And this is how it works, right? We commissioned something called the cost segregation study. So it's an engineering study, and it will reclassify all the components of the building into kind of like shorter depreciation lives. And so then we apply 100% bonus depreciation, which last year Congress made permanent for every property that was bought after January 2025. And since our asset, we're buying it this year, closes in 2026, right? It's part of it. But so you get all of that depreciation year one. And so it creates this huge paper loss all in year one. And it's really wonderful for our high income earners, high income professionals who are looking for a way to kind of decrease their tax burden. So you're going to get a Schedule K, K1. You're going to get that next year. And you're going to give that to your accountant, and they're going to know what to do with it. But for most investors, right, it can shelter a lot of the cash distributions that you receive from this deal. And then kind of depending on your personal situation, right, it could also shelter passive income from other opportunities that you might have. So the rule of thumb on this deal is that up to about $49,000 of paper loss for every $100,000 that you invest in year one. Now, I want to tell you, because there are caveats to it, and so I want to be honest with you. Passive activity loss rules, though it limits how much you can use each year. So that's something that you have to think about, right? Also, depreciation gets recaptured when we sell. So your actual outcome depends entirely on kind of your tax position. So again, right, this is a conversation that you have to have with your CPA. And again, right, I'm a doctor, I'm not your accountant. And Phoenix, we don't give tax advice, but I'm telling you the benefits of investing, and I want you to kind of pay attention to that and know that if you are if you're a high income earner and you're looking for ways to diversify, like real estate is a great asset. Excuse me. Okay, so this is a slide that I think a lot of investors are waiting to look at or thinking about, and I want to break down what the numbers look like. So Class B, there are two classes that are available to you, Class B and Class C. Class B is the $100,000 minimum, and this is where most of our community invest. You get a 6% preferred return, which means that before Phoenix earns a single dollar, right, you get your 6% first. And this is most likely will come from cash flow. And this is what preferred means, right? So what is preferred? People are like, well, what does preferred return means? It is cumulative. So if any of it goes unpaid in any given year, right, it carries forward over and it's paid in full. So, like if the first year, right, from cash flow, it's supposed to be 6%, but we're going to pay out somewhere around 4.5%. And so that the rest will be carried over. So this slide is kind of it gives you a full picture of what your returns could look like over the last 5 years. So if you have questions, I just say, take a screenshot of this. And when you and I sit down to have a conversation, I could go over it in detail. So that looks like that's yearly. And then in year 5, when we sell, right, you are going to get return of your capital. So your initial investment, $100,000, you get back. And then you get 70% of the profit split. So on this illustration, right, on a $100,000 investment, over the life of the deal, you would have gotten back at the end of it about $182,000 in total. So that's an equity multiple of like 1.8x. So that's your initial investment. And if you look at like your average annual returns or what you were making every year, it's going to look like about 16.5%. And I want to say this again because compliance matters, but also because it's true, right? These numbers are drawn from our current underwriting. They're not guaranteed. It actually could get better depending on how the deal performs. But sometimes it's really nice for an investor, especially if you're new and you're thinking about it. It's really nice to be like, okay, like really, what am I going to make? At the end of this deal, what does that look like? Like, how much money am I making every year? What does this look like? So I think this is like really easy. And I as the leader, I did all the math, and I'm able to explain everything and break down this. So if you're like, well, I'm not sure, what does this look like? Take me up on the offer, schedule a call, let's have a conversation with it, and I'll break it down. Okay, so I told you about Class B. This is Class C. For those of you who want your money to work more, we created Class C. It's a smaller class, but we had a lot of investors who are like, okay, well, I have a little bit more money. Can I be rewarded for bringing in a little bit more capital? And the answer is yes. So Class C earns a higher preferred return, and they earn 7%, and they take a larger profit at exit, which is 75%. So on the illustration, right, 250,000 looks like about 447,000 return over a 5-year period with an average annual return of around 18%. So the logic is very simple here. If you bring more capital to improve the community, you participate more on the upside. And both classes are open tonight, and they're very detailed in the private placement memorandum, and you'll get access to that in the deal room for you to be able to evaluate. And I want to please know that these documents are for your eyes only and for anyone who's helping make the decision. So maybe your financial advisor, your CPA, your spouse, but I want all of it to be accessible to you so that you can get to see the full picture and make the right decision. So again, right, if you and I think our team is putting up the link for you to soft commit to the deal. We'll send you all that information. We'll give you an opportunity to schedule a call with the team, ask questions. And I want to say this, right, if you are unsure, if you're like, okay, maybe my financial situation is different, what does it look like if I invest a different amount? I want to say that I'm open to kind of having the conversation with you, and we can decide what works for you. So don't kind of let any of the numbers dissuade you from making a commitment tonight. If you think about it, you're like, man, I've been thinking about this. I really want to jump on a call with me, and I can figure out exactly what it could look like for your particular situation. So I just wanted to make sure that I said that. Okay, so the last few slides as we wrap up, it's important, but I want to take some time to go over it. How do you actually get into the deal? There are 3 ways. The first one is individually, and you can do cash, savings account, money under your bed, whatever you want, you can bring that. And then the second way is through an entity, or you can even do a trust. We have investors who have done trusts in the past. And the third is the one I want to spend a few minutes talking about, and it's through a retirement account. So Roth IRA, your traditional IRA, self-directed IRA, or even an old 401k. Most of the money that you have, like most of you guys have money that's sitting in a former employer's 401k, and you haven't thought about it in years. So I want to show you how that money can help you own real estate, because that's very important. So I want to spend a little bit of time kind of going through this. Now, this slide, I told you there are a few slides I'll tell you to take a picture of. This slide is one of them. It's busy, but take a picture of it because it helps kind of help you understand the breakdown between investing with an old 401k or an IRA. And I want to demystify this because a lot of investors don't even know that this opportunity is out there. A lot of professionals are not made aware of this. So it's the single most underused source of investment capital in the country. I want to tell you this, right? There's roughly $1.2 trillion, that's trillion with a T, that is sitting in old, forgotten 401k accounts from jobs that people left years ago. Use it to invest in real estate. So if you've ever changed employers, some of that is probably yours. And this is what most people don't know, right? That money does not again, I'll say it, it does not have to sit in the same like 3 index funds forever. You can move it into something called a self-directed IRA, or if you qualify a solo 401k, and a self-directed account is allowed to invest in private real estate like this deal. So that's again what a lot of people don't know, right? If you, with a self-directed IRA account, you can invest in alternative assets, and real estate is one of them. And the mechanics are simpler than you think, right? You open a self-directed IRA account with a specialized custodian. We have vetted, we have custodians that we have vetted for you, and we don't get any kickbacks. So we really just want to give you, to make sure that you have that opportunity to use your old 401k or an IRA to invest. So all you do is you set up the account, you roll your old 401k or that IRA into the self-directed IRA account as a direct trustee to trustee transfer, which means that the money moves from one institution to another, and it never passes through your hands. So you don't touch it. So you are not penalized. So before age 59 and a half, right, if you touch the money, you're going to get penalized, but you are not touching the money. It's just a lateral transfer between one institution and another. And that self-directed IRA account is now able to invest on your behalf. So again, I'll say it, right, because the money never touches your hand, because you never touch it, you don't take possession of it, possession, right? There is no tax or early withdrawal penalty. So then that your retirement account, so it's your retirement account, not you personally, is investing in the deal. So that retirement account, your self-directed IRA that you just created, it becomes the limited partner. So every dollar of cash flow and every dollar of profit at sale, it flows right back into the account. So you see the money, right? But you don't touch it. And that money keeps compounding, and it's tax deferred because it's in a traditional account. And so that's something that you have to, so you're not spending your retirement money, right? You're just putting it to work in an asset instead of leaving it idle. So it's very important for you to understand that and know that it's important. So I promised you that I'd be very straight with you, and not just like pitch anything, right? But this is where I want you to understand before you decide to roll it over into a self-directed IRA account. So remember that big like 49% tax deduction that I got excited about and I shared with you earlier. So that benefit is designed to offset the taxes that you pay on your personal income. So if you invest through a retirement account, like an old 401k or an IRA, right? That account is already tax advantage, right? It's already a tax saving vehicle. You're not paying taxes through your IRA or the self-directed IRA. So that depreciation benefit is wasted because you don't get any benefit from it, because you're not getting taxed, because you're not using your personal income, you're not using cash. And so the depreciation will only work if you are using cash. So this is how I think about it, right? This is the rule of thumb. If for you, right, as an individual, if the year one tax write-off is what you're after, right? You're like, okay, I need to decrease my tax burden. Then I would say invest with cash. But if tax deferred or tax-free growth of your retirement money that you were not going to touch anyways, if that's what you're after, so if you want that money to grow, then I would say this retirement account is a really cool solution. And it's a beautiful way for you to use that, for you to allow your money to grow tax-free and grow it well. So this is my ask, right? If you want to use your retirement funds, I would say start now, not the week before we close. Don't do that. Because the rollover would take 1 to 3 weeks, right? And the offering is going to close in November. So what I want you to do today is reserve your spot. My team will connect you with our self-directed IRA custodian, the one that we work with, and then they'll walk you through kind of every question. And when you're comfortable, and only then will you now fund the allocation. So this is exactly how I moved my own retirement money out of the market into real estate. So I'm telling you something that I've done, and it's a great decision that I made. So this is what happens next. There's just 3 steps, one decision. Step 1, reserve your spot. I'm pretty sure our team has put the link up, and if they haven't, they will. But reserve your spot, review the materials. You get access to the deal room, and then from there you get access to the portal. So you'll see the underwriting, you'll see the performer, the offering documents, all of it. You get access to that. Step 2 is I'd love to, from that point, right, schedule a call. And a lot of investors have already scheduled calls in the last 2 weeks. So bring us your questions. I want to sit down and kind of walk you through structure, timing, tax treatment, whatever you need. And then step 3, after all of that, and you jump into the portal, right? And then you sign the PPM, the subscription agreement, and then you wire the funds and lock in your allocation. So that's the last step. Funding is the last step. The beginning is for you to, one, secure your spot, but really understand everything about the investment. And so just so you know, right, the allocations, this is how it works. It's limited, it's first come, first serve, and they're confirmed in the order of like when you sign your subscription documents and when you wire the money. So so as you start signing the soft commit and committing to the deal, right, you start getting access to all the information. And then the moment that you sign, in the moment that you sign and you wire the money, you're definitely in. So I just want to be clear with kind of the steps and the processes. If you have any questions at all whatsoever, put it in the chat. But if you don't want to do that and you want to set up a call with me, please feel free to do that. So if you take nothing else from tonight, I told you I was wrapping up. Do your own due diligence. Look at the details. If the deal does not check every box, don't invest. But if you've been looking for a way to own institutional quality real estate without having to deal with tenants, toilets, 2 a.m. phone calls, because they happen, then this is the vehicle for you. And my team, we work it every single day, so you don't have to. So this is how to reach us: email, phone number, reach out, click on the link, reserve your spot. And then I want to talk about kind of your personal situation. I put this on so that you have comfort and you have peace of mind, right? Please take this, and as you get access to the document, share it with your financial advisor, share it with your attorney, share it with your CPA, share it with your spouse, whoever makes decisions with you as you make a decision to move forward. Okay, thank you all for giving me your evening. Again, scan the screen, reserve your spot, or click on the link. I would definitely love, love, love to welcome you into the ownership of MONTROSE Berkeley Lake. So let's build something truly that pays you, that shelters you, and that gives 492 families truly a better place to call home. So thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free to toss it in the chat, and then I would love to answer it. Thanks everyone for your time. If there are any questions, I'll hang around a little bit for questions. Okay, maybe I was clear, or very clear. If there are any questions, if you have questions, or if you're thinking, again, please feel free to schedule a call with me. I'd love to again walk you through in detail. If there are areas that you're confused about, I definitely love to walk you through. But if not, then I will give you 8 minutes of the rest of your evening back. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.